Hey, what is going on, guys? DK. Back at you with another video here to predict Game 1 of the NBA Finals, the Showdown slate between the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name is DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports, daily fantasy sports slates. I do want to say thank you guys again for all support on the YouTube videos, on the live streams, and on Twitter. Really do appreciate it. Currently, right now, at 5.08 thousand subscribers on YouTube. The easiest way to support me with all the content being free is hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload videos, you know when I go live. Also, if you guys cannot watch YouTube videos, I do upload on Apple Podcasts. The link is in the description below, which is the DKDFS show. Also, just maybe on Instagram, I would really appreciate if you guys could give me a follow there. That is also in the description below. I'll be giving out, posting some stuff on Instagram as well. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. So really excited to finally not have to deal with the Celtics backup center rotation and trying to figure out who's going to play, and Mike Malone and just the rotation in general besides Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. So that was, it feels like the last couple of weeks I have literally gotten at least like the backup center for Boston, like who I think is going to play, wrong every single time. And for Denver, basically, like my value play, whenever I play him, always got his 4 minutes. Like no matter what, I played Gary Harris the other day. He played like 15 minutes. When I would play Michael Porter Jr., who gets super limited. So I'm glad we don't have to deal with either of those headaches anymore, and we can just focus on this showdown slate. So let's take a look at the over/under here for Game 1. It's a 218 over/under. Heat are 5-point favorites. The Lakers are 5-point favorites. So we'll start at the top. I'll go top to bottom here, and then I'll kind of talk about roster construction, and then, captains I'm considering, what the build I would kind of go with for like a cash game setting, or for maybe to try to take down a tournament like this one, the Millionaire Maker, guys. There's $1 million to first tournament here, $25 entry. So if you're a guy that's going to try to take this down solo, you're going to get very unique. Whether that be take a shot on someone cheap in the captain or leave a lot of salary on the table to differentiate yourself. So we'll start at the top, and LeBron James at 13.2K in the flex position. So LeBron went absolutely off that last game, 38, 16, and 10, a triple-double. More recently, like he has been better than Anthony Davis, who has really kind of struggled on the glass, which is a little bit concerning to me. Now, I'm interested to see what the Lakers do with the starting lineup, right? They've been starting Dwight the last few games because to guard Jokic. Do they do that again against the Heat for Bam? I think it's a possibility, but we don't know. So that is something to keep an eye on, what the Lakers do with their starting lineup. Right now, I think LeBron might be a little bit safer just because, if Dwight does start, that does hurt Anthony Davis's rebound upside, in my opinion. But I think, if you're playing a 50-50, a head-to-head, a double-up, I think playing both Lakers stars is probably the way to go because there is enough value to get you in there, and Miami is more of a balanced team. So whereas the Lakers, where the production is coming from, it's LeBron, it's AD. So, with LeBron and AD, LeBron might be slightly safer even for an extra $1,200 just because AD has been, kind of struggling on the glass. Right, the minutes have been there. Right? It's not like he's been in like foul trouble or anything. 43, 41, 35 minutes, 2, 5, and 5 rebounds. That's just not going to get it done. Right now, I do think those rebounds go up, but I think Dwight being in the starting lineup does hurt his upside a little bit with his rebounding. So I'm interested to see what the Lakers do with the starting lineup. I definitely think, like I said, for a cash game setting, you do play both of the Lakers stars. But I think the safer option is LeBron. Do you have to play both? No. I would play at least one, though. Like, I wouldn't fade both. I don't think, like, a winning lineup could have neither of them in it unless something, like, absolutely crazy happens. So definitely would play at least one. I think the safe option is to play both LeBron and Anthony Davis here. LeBron has been a little bit better recently. Again, the worry with me with Anthony Davis is the struggling, with him struggling on the glass. But I don't know if that necessarily is going to continue. I think those numbers do go up, but we'll talk about Dwight, him being a starting lineup. If he is, I think does take a slight hit to Anthony Davis. Yeah, so Bam Adebayo's at 10-6. They're going to need him big time in this series against Anthony Davis. We saw what he did against Giannis. So I think Bam is the safest guy here for Miami. He's been really, really solid. He went for 32 and 14 last game. His floor out of any of the Miami guys, out of Jimmy or Dragic or Hero, is just the highest because of his ability to rebound the ball, to block shots. He will fill up the stat sheet, and he will do it at a really, really nice rate. So, Bam is the safest guy for Miami, but you also are going to have to pay the most for him. So, I think he's safe, but you're going to have to pay premium. No real issue there with Bam at all. Jimmy Butler at 9-2. He's been a little bit more up and down in these playoffs, right? Bam has flashed the higher ceiling. My issue with Jimmy Butler is there are just games where he will take a backseat offensively. But then there's also games where he will take over. Maybe this is a game where he takes over, right? We haven't really seen the huge upside game from Jimmy in a long time. Like we saw almost 50 from him against Milwaukee, but that was like a while. That was almost a month ago. Other than that, he's been like high 20s, 30s, low 40s. So 9.2K is certainly playable price, right? And you get him at a discount off Bam. Like I said, I do think the upside is a little bit higher on Bam, but also the $1,400 difference. So it's a close one there. I think I still would slightly feel a little bit more comfortable taking Bam. But like I said, there's been games where Jimmy Butler has taken over for this Miami Heat team. So not saying he's out of play at all. I think he's at a fair price there at 9-2. Dragic is at 8-6. He's been really, really solid since inserted into the starting lineup here for the Miami Heat. Now, did only play 30 minutes at last game. Worries me a little bit he wasn't in the closing lineup, but if he does get his 35-ish minutes, that would make him a lot better of a play. But with him being Dragic is really, really close in price to Jimmy Butler now. I think I would rather get to Jimmy over Dragic. Now, like I said, that doesn't make Dragic out of play. He's been really, really good in the playoffs. But does he have that 50 fantasy point upside? I don't know. And he's almost an identical price of Jimmy. I think I like the upside a little bit more with Jimmy Butler. But like I said, there's none of these guys at the top are out of play at all. It's just what works the roster construction. How do you want to build it? Do you want to play safe? Do you want to get different? Do you want to play contrarian? Right? So. Just straight up, I probably would slightly give that to Jimmy, but Dragic is definitely playable. And Tyler Hero, I've played him last 12 or 13 slates or so. He did have that one letdown game where he only had 19 fantasy points. Doesn't worry me. He's a guy that's going to come off the bench and he's just going to shoot the ball. He's probably going to play mid-30s minutes. He's a do-it-all guy too. He can get you assists, rebound the ball. And we saw that upside rate a few games where he went for 51 fantasy points. I think the 8K price is very, very fair. And, I like his upside. So, Hero kind of, we're getting more now in the mid-range is someone that I think looks pretty decent. Him and Dragic are close in price. And that would be a tough call too. Who do I prefer with Dragic versus Hero? Both are pretty similar plays, right? Both probably get around 30 to 35 minutes. Both are guys that can fill up the stat sheet. So that's a close one for me. If you're going to make me pick, it's really, really close. If we go to Duncan Robinson, he's at 6'8", so the price is now coming up on him. It might be too high now, right? He was a guy that was against Boston in the mid 4K range, low 5K range. He's 6.8K now. I don't know. I don't know if I can pull the trigger on him. There's no guarantee with his minutes too. His minutes kind of fluctuate. There's games where he'll play 20 minutes. There's games where he'll play 35. You kind of need him to play the 35 minutes, and you need him to shoot really, really well because he is scoring dependent. If his three ball is not falling, the floor is super, super low. And also if he's struggling shooting, they will give his minutes elsewhere. So Duncan is a guy that I'm not super high on. Like I said, none of these guys are out of play, and they're still he can still possibly get you there if he does have to hit a lot of threes. But I'm not really excited about his price. Jay Crowder's at 6'2". So another guy's kind of been struggling shooting the ball. I think we get around 30-ish minutes from him. I think he's a fine option. He did have the one floor game against Boston, only put up 13 fantasy points. Other than that, he's been pretty consistent, 20, mid-20s to 30-ish fantasy points. Not a really guy that's going to break the slate, but For his price, I think he's someone that's certainly viable here in the mid range. I don't think he's going to kill you, but I don't think he's going to win you a GPP either. Rondo's a 5.4, so this is an interesting one here because he's a really good point per minute guy. Only played 13 minutes at last game. That obviously does worry me, right? Because he was a guy that was playing somewhere between 20 to 30 minutes so far in the playoffs, and he's just such a good point per minute guy. He's a guy that has such a high floor due to his assists. He can get you some steals. He can score the ball, get rebounds. Like, if I knew Rajon Rondo was going to play 25 minutes, I'd lock him in at 5.4. But there's no guarantee. And we only saw 13 minutes last game, which, like I said, it is just worrisome. So this is a tricky one, right? I don't know how many minutes he's going to get. My best guess would be like 20-ish, maybe a little bit more. If he gets close to 30, I think he has a chance to break the slate at 5.4K. So I do like Rondo a good amount here. My one concern is just how many minutes does he get? But if he does get extended a bit, if he gets in the mid-20s or even close to 30 minutes, I think he has the upside to really break a slate. So I do have a good amount of interest in Rondo, just kind of dependent on what his minutes will be. Dwight Howard, well, the minutes went way up on him that last game. Played 35 minutes. Again, they needed his defense to guard Jokic, and he played well. He's played well the last couple games. Now, what are the Lakers going to do with their starting lineup here? I don't know. I think they probably stick with Dwight in the starting lineup, but they could go back to McGee, I guess. But I think Dwight is a guy that definitely they can put on Bam. Now, will they use him for like 35 minutes against Bam? Probably not, right? But I think he has a decent chance to start. If he does start, makes him a lot more playable. I think we'd probably get at least 15 to 20 minutes from him if he does start. And like I said, he's a good point per minute guy. He's played well the last couple of games here. So Dwight is someone I'm interested in, but I kind of need him to start. If he doesn't start, that would worry me with his minutes. I think I don't know how many minutes we would play if he comes off the bench. So do want to see what the starting lineup is. If he does start, I would feel more comfortable with Dwight Howard. KCP, Danny Green, you know what you're getting into with these guys. There's no real breakdown needed. They'll play somewhere around 25 to 30 minutes. These are guys that are 3-and-D guys. They have to hit their threes. If they're not hitting their threes, the floor is low. Again, Green's minutes have fluctuated a bit. KCP's have as well. But both are playable prices. 4.6 and 4.2. They're certainly playable here. And they do have upside, right? They can go for like 25 plus if they're shooting the three ball well. So don't rule these guys out for value. I think they're very much in play here. Kuzma's at a 3.8. It does intrigue me, right? He's a guy that has really been struggling so far in these playoffs. But 3.8K, it makes him more playable, right? So I think we probably get around 20 minutes from Kyle Kuzma. And the price point, just like I said, it just makes him a lot more playable. I know he's been struggling, but he is a guy that can get hot. We haven't really seen it in a while from him, but like he can break the slate if he shoots the ball really well. Like he has upside to go for like 25 to 30, but we really just haven't seen a lot recently. So Kuzma's another cheap value I think is playable just because of the price, not because of recent play or anything. It's just the 3.8K price is very cheap. Iguodala, I think, does get more minutes in this series. Finally had a good game. The last game, he shot the ball 5 of 5, went for 26 fantasy points. Don't think we get that again, but I do think we get good minutes from Iguodala. I think they will use him a decent amount to guard LeBron James. Again, he's not really out there for his offense. The minutes, my best guess is probably like 25 or so minutes. And that makes him playable, right? He's really not a high usage guy at all. But he's a guy that can get you, a block or steal here and there, and all he would really need is hit a couple shots. So Iguodala, another guy in that the group of value you can definitely consider. He's not a guy that has huge upside, but I think he's at least playable here. And then Caruso's at 3K. I think he is probably my favorite value of the really cheap guys because I think the minutes they've been solid on him, right? Like I feel confident Caruso will play at least 20 minutes. I think we get probably about 25 minutes. He's, been playing really well. Like he's a good defender too. The Lakers are confident in him. He's usually in the closing lineup for the Lakers. So I think Caruso at this price point does make for one of the better value plays of the day. He's another guy, not as high of a floor as Rondo, but he can get you some assists, can score the ball, block steals. So Caruso at that price, I think, looks like a pretty good play. Then we just get to the dart throws here. Like below Caruso is nothing I can really recommend with confidence. Markieff Morris, how many minutes does he get? I would say probably around 10 to 15. Playable at 2.6, definitely playable, but definitely on the riskier end. Kelly Olynyk, is he even in the rotation? I don't know. Has barely played the last couple of games in that Boston series, so sure, the 2K price is appealing if I knew he was going to play, but I don't think there's a guarantee that he will play, right? I think the Heat could go to their 7-man rotation with Iguodala and Hero off the bench. So I think you would really need like Bam and Adebayo foul trouble. But even so, like would they go to Kelly O? I don't know. So this one is tricky for me because Kelly O is a really, really good point per minute guy. If I knew he was going to play 15 minutes in this game, I would play him at 2K. But there's no guarantee he even plays. So yes, for sure he's playable, but definitely risky play because there's no guarantee he is in this rotation. Kind of the same with McGee. I think there's an outside chance he could start, right? They moved him to the bench last couple of games against Denver. Maybe they move him back to the starting lineup here against the Heat. I don't know. If that's the case, if he does start here, then he makes a pretty good value play because I think we would get his normal 12 to 13 minutes unless they do bench him in the second half, which we actually have seen a couple times. So sure, like I don't think I would play JaVale McGee unless he starts. If he does start, he is playable as a value option. Lastly, like I don't think Derrick Jones Jr. sees the rotation. Maybe gets a couple minutes, but not enough for me to consider him. Solomon Hill, kind of the same thing. Like he played 5 minutes, 7. It's just not enough for me to consider playing him. I don't think J.R. Smith sees the court, or Kendrick Nunn unless there's some blowout. So basically, that's really it for me for the player-by-player breakdown. So let's talk about if you're playing head-to-heads. If you're playing a cash game setting, right, 50-50s, how would I attack the slate? Well, I think I would play both of the Lakers stars just because the offense is so condensed. We know it's coming from those two guys. And then you have 6.2K remaining, so I think you can get Bam in there if you want to. He does have the highest floor of these Miami guys. Would leave you with 4.7K remaining. There is enough potential value. Maybe you could go someone value at the captain, but for me, for like a GPP winning lineup, if I'm shooting for the upside, I want to jam in one of the stars in there, like whether that be LeBron or AD or Bam, or even a guy like Hero, Jim, the guys that have like the huge upside. And I think the cheap option I would consider, or the two cheap options I would consider for captain, would be Rondo and Dwight Howard. Now, Dwight, again, that's assuming he would start. If he doesn't start, I wouldn't really have a whole lot of interest in Dwight. Rondo's just a guy, like I said, if he gets the minutes, he could break the slate. So, I think a Rondo captain lineup could look good. It's just, a little bit risky with his minutes. But if you throw Rondo in the captain, that's 8.3K remaining. You can jam in LeBron. You can jam in AD. And you can probably get at least one more of these main Miami guys in your lineup. So that's always a build to consider. So that's how I'm going to attack it for, I'm playing only GPPs. I'm not really playing any cash games. So I'm probably going to play one of those main guys in my captain or take a shot on a guy like Rondo or possibly Dwight if he does start. And then, like I said, if you need cheapies, there's playable options for sure here. KCP and Green are basically the same player, 3-and-D guys. Kuzma's more in play just for his price, even though he's been struggling. Again, Iguodala, not a great offensive player, but I think he does get consistent minutes in this series. And then finally, Alex Caruso, I do like him a good amount for value. So I think that's going to do it for today's video, guys. If you have been enjoying the content so far, I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload videos, you know when I go live. Thanks again, guys. I hope you guys all have a good day, and I will see you all in the next video.